This knowledge requires you to help all equally as circumstances demand, without expectation of reward. When compelled to take part in a dispute, to act without the slightest trace of enmity or hatred, to try to make others happy with brotherly or sisterly feeling for each one, and to harm no one in thought, word, or deed, not even those who harm you. The only real control is the discipline of the senses to abstain from indulgence in low desires, which alone ensures absolute purity of character. The only real surrender is that in which poise is undisturbed by any adverse circumstance, and the individual, amidst every kind of hardship, is resigned with perfect calm to the will of God. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai.
Avtar Meher Baba ki jai. Thank you.
I hope my audio
So,
was.
yes, yes, it held out. Yeah, so I'm glad. So, we finished the chapter on violence and non-violence, but before we go to the assignment with the examples, um, Kama had a good idea. He said, "Let's finish violence and non-violence further explained, the next chapter, which is a small one, and then do the discussion on the examples." So, with that, I start with violence and non-violence further explained, page 72. Non-violence, number one, non-violence pure and simple, based on divine love. Here, one sees all as one's own self and is beyond both friendship and enmity. Never, under any circumstances, does a single thought of violence enter one's mind. That's non-violence. Non-violence of the brave, based on unlimited pure love. This applies to those who, although not one with all through actual realization, consider no one as their enemy. They try to win over even the aggressor through love and give up their lives if attacked, not through fear, but through love. Violence. Number three, non-violent violence, based on unlimited love. Violence done solely to defend the weak, where there is no question of self-defense or self-motivation, is non-violent violence. Selfless violence, based on limited human love. Here, violence is done in self-defense when one is attacked treacherously and with no other selfish motive. For example, when one's mother's honor is on the point of being violated by a lustful man, one defends one's mother. Also, when a nation's honor is at stake and it is being attacked by enemies, the nation's selfless effort at defending itself is selfless violence. Number five is non-violence of the coward, based on unlimited weakness of character and mind. Those who do not resist aggression because of fear and for no other reason belong to this class. Number six is selfish violence based on hatred and lust. When violence is done for selfish motives by an individual or nation, for power, selfish gains, and so forth, it is called selfish violence. Non-violence, pure and simple, means love infinite. It is the goal of life. When this state of pure divine love is reached, the aspirant is at one with God. To reach this goal, there must be intense longing, and the aspirant who has this longing to realize the supreme state has to begin by practicing what is termed non-violence of the brave. This applies to those who, though not one with all through actual realization, consider no one as their enemy. They try to win over even the aggressor through love and give up their lives if attacked, not through fear, but through love. As pointed out, non-violence of the brave is practicable for those individuals who have an intense longing to attain the supreme state. This longing is not to be found in the masses. If, therefore, it is intended to lead the masses to pure non-violence, it is necessary first to prepare them for the non-violence of the brave. To achieve this aim in a practical way, it is necessary to make them follow, in the beginning, the principle of non-violent violence, that is, violence done solely to defend the weak without any selfish motive whatever. In times of actual war, when the masses are taken by surprise, they are not in the mood even to listen to advice about having intense longing to attain the supreme goal of life. The only practical way to lead them finally toward the goal is to begin by inculcating in them the principle of non-violent violence and then gradually introducing the non-violence of the brave. A premature attempt to introduce non-violence of the brave among the unprepared masses in actual wartime would not only fail, but incur a serious danger of bringing in the fatal non-violence of the coward. That is, the masses would not resist the aggression simply because of fear and for no other reason. The masses may also be educated and led to the non-violence of the brave by making them follow the principles of selfless violence instead of those of non-violent violence. Selfless violence is violence done in self-defense when attacked treacherously. No other selfish motive should be allowed to justify the violence. Thus, for example, when one's mother's honor is on the point of being violated by a lustful man, and one defends her by resorting to violence, one is said to have followed the principles of selfless violence. Similarly, when the honor of a nation is at stake and it is being attacked by enemies, the nation's selfless effort in defending itself is selfless violence. A tinge of selfishness being present as the mother is one's own mother. The love expressed here is limited human love. Non-violence of the coward is, as pointed out, fatal. So also is selfish violence, that is, violence for selfish motives by individuals or nations to gain power or for other selfish ends. It will therefore be seen that while non-violence, pure and simple, is the goal of life, this goal has to be attained by individual seekers of God by following non-violence of the brave. The masses who have not the requisite intense longing for being one with Him have to be led gradually toward this goal by the principles of non-violent violence or those of selfless violence according to the circumstances. In conclusion, it must be very clearly understood that the non-violent violence and selfless violence are merely means of attaining the goal of life, namely pure and simple non-violence or love infinite. The means must not be confused or otherwise mixed up with the goal itself. The motive and the result are always judged by general acceptance as to whether they are good or bad. For example, non-violence of the brave and non-violence of the coward are both non-violence. But from the viewpoint of the motive force behind it, non-violence of the brave is born of love and non-violence of the coward is born of fear, which is the opposite of love. While as non-violence, they are not opposites, their motives are infinitely opposed to each other. The motive behind non-violence of the brave is losing one's life to gain infinite love. But the motive behind non-violence of the coward is to save one's life, which gains infinite contempt. Non-violence of the coward we put therefore under the heading of non-love, while we put non-violence of the brave under the heading of love. Non-violent violence is not placed under the heading of love but under the heading of duty. Duty done selflessly to others according to Karma Yoga, which eventually is linked up with unlimited love, but motivated by human love. The difference between the two opposite forces cannot be obliterated, but the transformation of one force to another can happen when expressed rightly through the right channels. Food given wrongly becomes poison, while poison, like strychnine, given in small quantities as a tonic, becomes food for the nerves. Although food in substance does not become poison and vice versa, the action and the result due to the use can become transformed. So that is the end of the chapter, but this is a very, very heady chapter. I'm sure we have to reflect a lot more to get the whole thing. Kama, your comments and any other questions before that?
Jai Baba, I think one, as you said, this chapter is quite deep. One thing we need to do is to categorize the 6 different principles of violence and non-violence, put it in a kind of a flowchart format, because
I was thinking of the same, yeah. This is dying for a visual and a diagram, yeah.
It needs a visual diagram, absolutely. It can have both graphics, it can have, a very interesting way of looking at all the, especially when we are talking about context, what kind of intelligent action we may take based on context. So this particular chapter is all about contextual situations and how one can intelligently use one's action of thoughts, words, and deeds to use one of these principles. So when you look back at the previous chapter, violence and non-violence, both are interconnected because there are examples of the same thing, fighting with the aggressor nation, all those stuff. So I think that both chapters can be read together and categorized in such a way that it's easy for everybody to, get the concepts, So I think I'll quickly tell you my understanding of this chapter is the first 2 principles. The first principle, non-violence, pure and simple, based on divine love, is very simple. It's about self-realized beings when you're in the 7th plane. The second one, non-violence of the brave, based on unlimited pure love, can be looked upon as the 5th and 6th plane, because in the 5th and 6th plane, you have, you see God, one is about thinking in the 5th plane and feeling in the 6th plane. Then the third one, violence, that is principle based on non-violent violence, based on unlimited love. Clearly, it says that in page number 74, as pointed out, non-violence of the brave is practicable for those individuals who have an intense longing to attain the supreme state. This longing is not to be found in the masses. If therefore it is intended to lead the masses to pure non-violence, which is basically the first principle or second principle, it is necessary first to prepare them for the non-violence of the brave. So what you're seeing is basically an evolution of different phases, of these different principles. So one has to go from selfless violence, number 4, to non-violent violence, number 3, then number 2, and then number 1. So this is how the whole sequence is, the way it looks like. And then there are infinite examples, I think, with human action and experience where we can categorize these different principles. Jai Baba.
Very interesting points brought out there. I think as he said, I agree that probably diagrammatic representation will help. So any other thoughts and comments?
Yeah, Jai Baba.
Yeah, Jai Baba.
On a practical standpoint, what is being said that you try to achieve a stage of non-violence of the brave. We have situations in our life where it's not a violence in a physical way, but being reprimanded for something which is not right, or somebody does anything wrong to you. So there is always two choices that we have: either the pardon the man and excuse him for what wrong he has done to you, or give it back to him, actually. So this is a very confusing kind of situation, because if I give it back to him, probably I help him in a sense that he realizes what wrong he has done. And if I do not do anything, I tend to fall into a trap of non-violence of the coward. So any comments on these kind of situations? Yeah. Jai Baba.
Sure, that's a good way of approaching it in real life. But
Yeah.
I think if you just step back and look at this, right? So Krishna talked about the duty of Arjuna to be violent, and
Yeah.
left it at that, right? But there he was told it is the duty. I mean, I know very little. I have not read Mahabharata as some others. I wish Doc Mama was there. Ravi is an expert. But broadly speaking, obviously there is a lot of reference and importance given to the fact that duty is more important than the nature of the duty, right? So like yesterday we talked about the coroner or the executioner, right? Is he carrying karma from the event of killing people, right? But I think instead of just leaving it at that point of duty, Baba has taken it to the next level, where he says that he has classified actions, he has classified contexts, and actually made the words very insignificant. The word violent and violence, if in the last 48 hours in my head, have a new connotation, right? I was speaking to Pashmina ji before you all joined, right? So our human conditioning is to instantly classify everything we see, everybody we see, every event we encounter, and in that eagerness and urgency to classify, we are actually making a big blunder. Actually, everything
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
driven by context, and there is no
Yes.
classification.
Yes. Yes.
You can
Yeah.
act based on the context. Make sure that you're progressing spiritually in every action that you're performing, and give the right importance to understanding the context, obviously, right? So that's
Right.
my
Right. In the Yeah, I think you are making sense. Is just the matter is of the intent, actually, and without bringing your
correct.
ego into picture. And the first paragraph of the earlier chapter just says, I think, if you can
Oh, that's
reflect
powerful.
that.
The words,
Yes,
yes,
yeah,
that's
yes,
very
very
powerful.
regarding the language and the interpretations
Words,
and the
language,
context.
yes,
Context,
yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
Words have their own
Very
place and
powerful.
use in life. But if action is to
Yeah,
be intelligent and it is imperative that the meaning these words are intended to convey should be carefully analyzed and fixed. And then he gives the example of violence and non-violence. It starts the chapter.
correct.
Spiritual life is a matter of
And
perception and not of mechanical conformity to rules. Yeah. Jai Baba.
these
Jai
two
Baba.
paragraphs are what sets the stage. Yeah, Namita.
This thing has been going into my mind for last 24 hours. You know, a butcher kills a lamb for living. His intention is not bad, but that's his job. Now I buy that lamb off the rack. My intention is food, not to kill the lamb. So who does the bad karma go to? Hello.
It's contextual again.
Can you pose that? Namitaji, can you pose
It's a
that?
alibi. Don't every time use contextual. let's
Namitaji, I
let's
couldn't
give
hear
real
your
answer.
question clearly. Can you
She
speak
Yeah.
left
up a bit?
everybody speechless. She left everybody speechless. Nobody knew what to say.
So
Exactly.
you see what I'm saying is the butcher cuts a lamb to make a
Mm,
living.
Who is
mm.
So
Buja?
he's
Who is Buja?
butcher.
Oh, butcher. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
You thought you didn't know this puja who is killing people? Anyway.
Yeah.
There is also many pujas where you kill animals and human.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think.
All right,
So
butcher.
yeah, so he kills to make a living. but his intention is not bad. He's not doing it out of vengeance. I go to a store and pick that lamb, go and put it in my pressure cooker and make a good meal for my family. My intention is also not bad. I just want to give them nutritious meal. But at the same time, there has been a killing. So who will get reprimanded for that? So if you give me a correct answer, I'll know whether to become vegetarian or no.
First comment I have to make. It's a tough question, but first comment I have to make is there is no reprimanding, right? There's no reprimanding of anything, right? The event and action is basically what you have done. So there's
Yes.
the action begets something, but that's not the result. Is not the reprimanding,
Yes.
either for good or bad action, right? So anyway, that's my initial
Okay,
comment.
I mean,
But
what
Yeah,
I'm saying is my
this
sanskaras get messed up. To what
yes,
extent? What
exactly.
is the division of, you know, uh, who gets
So if
who
I
gets the
attempt to
play?
answer
mm,
your question, if I attempt to
yeah.
answer your I have to ask at least 10 more questions. Did the
Ah,
butchers have a choice of profession? Did the
yes.
butcher do this out of his intent to, perform just killings because he felt that was the most, I mean, his vritti was to kill. So he wanted to do something where he could do violent stuff, or it was just profession that he took up
No, I haven't seen
other.
any butcher who does
It
it
could
because
be
he wants to
lineage.
kill
It could
people.
be lineage. Yeah.
It could be lineage, yeah. It should be a
Yeah.
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 profession
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
hereditary,
Family
right?
profession. Yeah.
So is
But
it that? And then coming to you, did you make a conscious choice to become a non-vegetarian, or were you already a non-vegetarian from the beginning? And then do you do this, as you rightly said, for providing nutrition for somebody who badly needs nutrition that can come from animal protein, or you do it for the tongue, right? All of
yeah.
this will determine the damage
Yeah. Yeah.
caused.
Yeah. Even I have this debate of veg and non-veg, and I typically I set it, though I once in a while take non-veg, but I set it in the terms of mercy to the animals, and then I think then my mind rests somewhere. You know,
Mercy
just
in
from the
what
Say that
sense?
mercy
again. So
mercy
what do you
perspective.
mean?
Yeah.
Mercy
I mean,
कैसे?
mercy to the animals. If I think in that terms, then I tend to think that I should eat only vegetarian food. Yeah, Jai Baba.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, Baba. Uh,
Yeah,
this is what I
Okay, so
think.
Others.
what is good?
yeah,
Yeah, Ravi, go ahead.
This is what I think. If we eat chicken, chicken is butchered by somebody, and then we are enjoying the food. Uh, yes, we collect sanskaras. We collect all sorts of sanskaras. Even if you don't eat chicken, you eat something else, right? Vegetarian food. We collect sanskaras. Every action we do, we have to remember we collect sanskaras. That is a law, a divine law. And then we have to pay karma. How do we pay for that is very complicated. It's all mingled up with various other things, various feelings, various different complex equations. So the people, if we want to really reduce the sanskaras by of killing or any of these things, I mean, one more point is how we are eating. Are we eating to survive or are we eating to enjoy?
Mhm.
That is the question
Enjoy,
we
of
have to
course.
answer. And are we living to eat or eating to live? That is the question we have to have. There's a big difference in that. And we collect sanskaras anyway. I don't think we need to worry about this. It's too complicated to think about. Just love Baba. Every time you
Yeah.
eat, think about Baba. Offer
Yes.
everything, whatever you ate. Think Baba is the one who is eating. You will be
Yes.
fine. Because
Okay,
Baba
that's good.
said, it doesn't matter whatever you eat. It makes a little difference. Baba said that to Gandhi in while he was traveling to Rajputana.
I see.
What you eat, it makes a difference. What you put into your system makes a difference in your thinking. If you eat a lot of animal meat, you get rajasic qualities. That's why nowhere in Vedas they said don't eat meat. As far as I know, my knowledge is really limited, but yeah.
No, it's true. Nowhere in Vedas it is written not to eat non-veg or not to drink. These two things are not mentioned, and these two things are not prohibited.
I love Vedas from today.
Well, drinking, Baba said don't drink. Baba said that don't drink.
Oh, he did?
Oh yes, and
Yeah.
Krishna also said indirectly, people who drink, I mean, who are going to go down the drain, they do all these atrocities. That's what he
That's
said,
true.
indirect way.
That is true. But Vedas में कहीं mention नहीं है इसका दोनों चीजों का.
Oh, in Samaveda, they talked about what is that drink called?
Somras.
Samapana, right? Samapana.
Somras. Yeah, somras.
Yeah, that's alcoholic.
Ha, that is alcoholic. Yeah.
Yeah,
But what does Kama Veda say to this? Kama
कामा जी को बुलाओ.
Kama is drunk probably.
Okay, Jai Baba, I stop. I'm sorry for the deviation, but okay,
No, it's a
thank
very
you.
interesting deviation. So, any other comments on her question? Any other inputs from the others who have remained silent?
Kama Veda is not responding. I'm very sad.
Just one question I have. Did Baba eat meat or he
He
didn't?
ate fish,
Was he
I
a
know
vegetarian?
once.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yes, Baba,
he
not
did
very
eat fish
often,
and chicken.
but where's that auntie who used to live? Frini auntie used to live in Dehradun, and Baba used to come to her house, asked her to make a chicken, and used to eat,
Oh,
but very
nice.
little, not very often.
Little. Okay.
So he
I'll
was
make
mostly
nice little
vegetarian.
chicken.
Even in Meher
Yes.
Azad, when Baba was living his last 7 to 10 years, the dog Mastan used to come to his room, and I think Mehra used to make sure that Baba got the right kind of chicken pieces, and he would separate the meat from the bones or something like that. And then after that, he would feed Mastan the dog. So definitely for health reasons, see, it is all about motive. I think that is very important. I remember a long time ago when I saw one of these wildlife movies, like Hatari and something with the Kalahari Desert. The Kalahari tribesmen, when they are hunting an animal, and I still remember that there was this huge ram or something. And what they do is they follow the ram for a couple of days or a week and tire it. So ultimately, what happens? The ram just sits down. It can't get up. It has become so tired. And then the Kalari tribesmen, they kill the ram and immediately they do a prayer, actually. They actually, because it's like animate, nature worship. And they pray to the nature that thanks for providing them this food and also sorry for having to kill this animal. So I think that I probably the Tibetan Buddhists also do that, in Tibet, where you have to have meat. So I think the motive behind is very important. So yes, sanskaras are being created by every action. That is true. But we also know that there are weak sanskaras, strong sanskaras, and powerful sanskaras. So motive is a very important factor in how a particular action is done and what kind of sanskaras that one makes an input. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, thank you.
So
I was listening to one Swamiji talk, and he grew up in America. He went to Sri Lanka and became a monk, and he belongs to a monastery there. And if you search, forgot his name. He said they would make beer. All the Swamijis, the bachelors, they make beer and then they drink there once in a way, not all the time, but. So we are now licensed to drink beer.
Jai Baba,
Beer,
one more
chicken, fish, all okay.
Yeah.
Sunil, we have to repeat.
Don't go any more further.
Sunday evening. Good inputs for Sunday evening.
Jai Baba, Jai Baba.
Yeah.
Sorry,
We
Kama.
have to repeat. I think both Sunil and Kama have to repeat what they said because they spoke at the same time.
Okay.
Mine was a joke, so let Kama speak.
Sunil, go ahead first.
No, I was just cracking a joke. I said fish, chicken, and fish,
Beer.
chicken, and beer is okay. So,
Okay.
Kama, go ahead. Kama, yours, please. Yeah.
Yeah, what Sanjay was saying initially, which he mentioned in the first paragraph of Violence and Non-Violence on page 67, man has a tendency to cling to catchwords and to allow his actions to be determined by them almost mechanically without bringing his actions into direct relation with the living perception that these words embody. Words have their own place and use in life. But if action is to be intelligent, it is imperative that the meaning that the meaning these words are intended to convey should be carefully analyzed and fixed. So, what I want to point out is then again, when you read the last paragraph on page 71, which is a conclusion of this particular chapter, it says the detailed analysis and comparison of the above diverse situations bring out the fact that questions concerning violence and non-violence, their justification or otherwise, and the ascertainment of their true value or lack of value cannot be decided by any formal enunciation of a universal rule. They involve many delicate spiritual issues and implications. A right understanding of the status of violence and non-violence in the scheme of spiritual values requires a true perception of the meaning of the purpose of existence. Action, therefore, should not be governed by means of any slogans, however high sounding, based upon incomplete and insufficient ideas of mere violence or mere non-violence. It should be a spontaneous outcome of divine love, which is about duality, and of spiritual understanding, which is about rules. So I think what, for me, this particular paragraph sums up is that when we are reading discourses and we are making these questionnaires based on each chapter, sometimes we have a tendency to get stuck in the words of that particular chapter, but the real significance of it is that we should try to relate it to other paragraphs in other chapters which are also correlated to that. So one needs to keep a very open mind when we are doing this question and answer session, that we don't get stuck in that particular chapter based on words. Jai Baba.
I had that feedback about yesterday's question. So we are getting highly contextualized at the cost of the bigger picture. But then it's a balance that we have to strike.
Sorry to interrupt.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Jai Baba. So how do we classify that incident?
Kama, Karthik, I would like to go back to Kama, what he was saying. Kama, can you come back again, please? I didn't quite understand what you're commenting.
No, I was saying that the paragraph, the first paragraph talks about man has a tendency to cling to catchwords. And the
You're
other
talking
thing
about
is
something. Kama, you're talking something about yesterday's quiz.
well, I'm not talking about yesterday's quiz. I was saying that in general, we will have a tendency to get stuck on words of a particular chapter when we are phrasing questions of a general nature to relate to the seven realities. So what I wanted to say was, sometimes when you phrase a question, when you phrase a question, that question will have multiple answers. And what we would need to be cognizant about is not only be able to focus on the answer in that particular chapter, but also use the question to leverage other answers in other chapters. So I just wanted people to be aware of that, not to get stuck in one particular answer in a particular chapter, because those questions are very much general.
Universal, exactly.
Those questions. So that is my suggestion.
But the Kama, my response to that is, unless we are thorough with each chapter, and when we finish the book, then we understand every chapter what it is said. then we get a comprehensive idea later on. If you are not even thorough with each chapter, whatever it is said, if you don't understand anything, we cannot be in a comprehensive understanding.
So let me try to comment on this. In my comment 5 minutes back, I said that we have to strike a balance. The idea is, if let us say the same question is posed to a reader who after 3 months of reading this chapter, right? He should still contextually answer with information within that chapter and probably with information that he has gained across the reading of the discourses, which may be tough based on the.
Yeah, I think the words are for the initiates.
Your point is well taken, Ravi, on mastering the specifics in that chapter, because we are in a journey where each chapter being mastered is important for us to move forward. So we have to strike a balance. So I understand your intent and why you did what you did, but you have to also keep in mind that the same question should be answerable by somebody who looks at it 3 months, 4 months, 6 months later.
Exactly.
Or in the context
it all depends upon how much we grasp out of it, and also our own tendencies also. How much memory we have, how much we read, how much stuff we retain, and what is our mood at that moment, and how we answer. It all depends upon a lot of factors. But I think, in my opinion, we should be thorough with each chapter as we are going. That's all I'm saying.
Right. So in my understanding, the words are for the initiates and for the aspirants to get to the right track, but the ultimate reality is beyond the words, because that's what even Baba has said. Not strictly with the meaning or the dictionary meanings of words, but beyond that. Jai Baba.
Okay, perfect. So
Karthik, I have another suggestion on this previous chapter of violence and non-violence. I was just going through it, and if you see, it talks about different situations or examples. So my suggestion would be that go back to each of the examples or situations, and let's try to classify how they relate to the 6 principles in the second chapter. Because as I said, the second chapter gives you the classification, the general classification with examples. But the first chapter, violence and non-violence, there are many examples that they have given. And what I would suggest is to relate each of the situations to the different principles, the one of the 7 principles. So why don't you take a consensus on that, whether that makes sense or not?
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a good idea. So maybe what a small tweak I suggest is we take each situation and again analyze it and try to see which classification it belongs to from the second chapter, and then also do the other examples that people have come up matching this situation. Okay, so so let's take situation number 1. It's the case of the drowning man. In fact, it's a couple of lines. I'll just read it. So suppose a man who does not know how to swim has fallen into a lake and is drowning, and that there is another person nearby who's good at swimming and wants to save him. The drowning man has a tendency to grasp desperately at the person who comes to his aid, and the hold is often so restricting that it may not only make it impossible to save the drowning man, but may even cause the drowning of the one who came to help. The one who wishes to save the drowning man may therefore have to strike him unconscious before he can help him. Striking the drowning man under such circumstances cannot be looked upon either as violence or non-violence. So here he summarizes it as cannot be looked upon either as violence or non-violence. What do we think? Where do we think this belongs to in the classifications that we saw in the next chapter?
This comes under principle 3, non-violent violence based on unlimited love. So if we can go across the table and see whether everybody agrees to that or not. Situation, that is principle number 3. non-violent violence based on unlimited love?
Jai Baba, I would place it on the point number 4, selfless violence. Apart from saving the person who's drowning, the swimmer is also trying to save himself, because if he's grappled by the one who's drowning, he may also drown. So it's coming under self-defense also. That is my observation. Jai Baba.
That's a good point.
That's a good point. I think it's 4. Yeah, it should be 4. Does everybody agree?
Yes, absolutely. I think he's Karthik was sorry.
Khalid
was good, right?
Okay. So now let's go back. Yeah. So examples. So did you guys do the homework? So anybody has an assignment that has a incident that matches this situation?
Karthik, you said that's for the next week. Next Saturday, that's
Okay.
what you said.
And my mistake, actually. I didn't realize that it was we are meeting the next day. So we'll leave that aside. Anybody else who already thought of an example can jump in and share their examples.
In fact, it was from my side what Namita has said. I was contemplating on the butcher aspect. So the butcher profession comes from lineage. There is a tribe who is involved in butchering. So as Namita said, who is accumulating sanskaras. But in my opinion, what happens, we basically, whenever we talk about sanskaras, or whenever we talk about unwinding, it's all related to the human form. My thought goes to that animal who has been butchered. So in his act of being butchered, maybe for the butcher to earn a living, maybe for somebody's appetite, maybe for somebody's health, his meat is being used. But on the path where does this animal sanskaras, is he advancing, is he progressing, or is it a balancing of the sanskaras? That's where my thought gets limited, if somebody can put it forward. Jai Baba.
Any response to Khalid's question?
Khalid, I didn't understand your question. Pose it again, please.
In the packing a bag, and then that's bothering the audio. Kindly mute.
In
yeah,
this
go ahead, Khalid.
Butchering, butcher has his sanskaras, his intentions, and his motives. The person who's consuming the meat butchered has his intention, has his need, has his wants. My question is, in this act, where does this animal who's being butchered, what about his sanskaras? What about his progress on the path? Is he progressing? Is he advancing? Is there a balancing of sanskaras, or what? I just wanted some enlightenment on that.
Yeah, I think he's advancing. Even if it is balancing, that's also an advancement. So any next life is an advancement. That's what I would think.
Jai Baba, how about those animals which get butchered for, kurban? Is that good for them?
Absolutely not. I think that
about the Quran and other thing where they slaughter and they say a prayer. Somebody was just saying it. So even during Qurbani, or even what we call as halal meat in the Islamic term, when an animal is butchered, a prayer is said. So that prayer means that, forgive me, for I am taking your life for my consumption, or for satisfying my hunger, and may your soul rest in peace. It goes somewhere like that. So even in Qurbani, and even when we call as halal meat, this small prayer is said, before the animal is slaughtered. Jai Baba.
I think Khalid, if that prayer is said sincerely with all good intentions, then he will not get the sanskaras. But if he does mechanically, oh, we have to do this prayer. Anyway, we do this prayer. Just quickly utter those words. It doesn't make any difference. That's what I think.
Kama, you were saying something which got muffled up.
Yeah, I think that if you go on reading the different situations now, I will comment after we finish reading situation number 5. So let's finish with that and then I'll comment. Jai Baba.
Okay. So let's go to situation number 2. Case of surgery. Suppose a person is suffering from some disease that can only be cured through an operation. Thus, in order to cure the suffering patient, as well as to protect others from catching this infection, a surgeon may have to remove the infected part. This cutting of the body with a knife also cannot be looked upon as either as violence or non-violence. So, which of the 4 will we take this to be? I think again it's 4.
Selfless violence. It's for the good of the other person. It's consensual.
That's what I'm saying. So it's again 4. Others?
Yeah, it is selfless violence based on limited human love.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It also happens in our working environment, Sometimes you have to give a peace of mind to people, so, to straighten them and bring them to the right path. So
true.
I see it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to be on your toes sometimes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they will rule you, right?
Yeah. Not from that perspective, but people have mental blocks, so sometimes we have to push them hard to remove those blocks mentally, and just to help them and of course the team. Yeah. Jai Baba.
Have you succeeded, Sanjay?
Yeah. My long 34 years. Yes. Many. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. I had 2 thoughts. One on Sanjay's comment, I agree 100%. During the lockdown, my family realized and they said, Sunil, what's your work? You keep scolding people all the day. So I think intent matters, why you're doing it, and what's the purpose behind, and so on and so forth. Second, on the surgeries, surgery has also become a business nowadays. If you're trained to be a surgeon, anybody who walks in, you tell them surgery is the only and the best choice because you're told and trained like that. So it may not be always. There may be non-surgical options available. So intent is very important. This is a side point, though. I think everybody understands, but just a thought that came in my mind. So not all surgeries might be with the best intent. There's more detail to it than what meets the eye. Jai Baba.
Oh, the surgery has to be evidence-based. You have to have evidence. See, in America, there are a lot of lawsuits. If we do any mistake, we can be taken to court. And without injection, every work, even if we have a patient that is dying, we know he's going to die within 2-3 months. But still, we have to do absolutely clean work, based on evidence.
Of course, Raviji, I agree. But America is just 600 million and we are 7 billion. Not the same way the whole world works.
Yes.
There is difference in approach in different places. And also, even in America, a surgeon might have one opinion and another doctor who's Specialists might have another opinion, just go by medication based on their training, based on what they're taught, beliefs, experiences, and so on. End of the day, intent matters because surgeon will say, yes, surgery is the only option. Even he will take the risk of, giving a bad quality life to the patient. 50% risk, go ahead, surgery is the best option. So you really need to dwell deeper. Very difficult to say what is right and wrong in this more detailed
intent.
Intent.
Absolutely.
Eventually, intent.
Yeah. Even in the office example, is about the intent. Yeah.
Intent. Yeah. That's right.
Not as a personal this thing.
Right. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, I have a question. This present rift in Myanmar, wherein democracy has been taken over, and we have a military rule, and then there is a internal civil sort of a war. So it's like a war or an aggression. That would also fall under 4, or any comments on that?
I don't have enough context, but what's happening?
I think what is happening is the protests actually
Mm-hmm.
against the military rule, and most of these protests are not with arms or anything. They are, that kind of non-violent
Peaceful
protest.
protest.
That's what I have seen. But of course, those people are being killed by them because they are, the military rule is not accepting those protests. Yeah.
So that would fall
And
under.
they are using means of barricading the roads or putting those. They have a custom of if you put a wire with those clothes, so they don't want to pass under the clothes, women's clothes. So that's how they block the roads actually. So this is what is happening. The traditional ways of protests are happening there. Yeah.
No. My question is that from the point of view of the military power, which is killing people, it should be based on 6, is what I was thinking. But I just want some perspective on this. Because
I think they are protesting in non-violence of brave, most of it. That's what I have seen in the television. Yeah.
But I think there are 2 aspects to it, right? So Sanjay ji, Ashok is talking about what the violence of the governing power is, which is the military junta, and you're referring to the reaction of the individuals, right? So I think both of you are right, 6 and 4, yeah. Is that right, Ashok?
Yeah, that's right. Because there are 2 sides to it, and
Yes.
the military power, because of for their greed, or we can say lust for power, lust for excessive lust for power. They're trying to they just overthrew the government. So that could be as 6 according to me from the government side, and for the people it will be 4. Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Okay. So talking about Myanmar, let's take the situation number 3. Suppose an aggressive nation invades a weaker nation for selfish purposes, and another nation, inspired solely by the noble desire of saving the weak nation, resists this aggressive invasion by armed force. Fighting in defense of the weak nation cannot be looked upon as either violence or non-violence, but can be called non-violent violence. So, where does this get classified? In the 2nd chapter. Sorry.
Non-violent violence.
I'm remembering the Doklam standoff.
Yeah, for this there are plenty of examples.
Correct.
The Bangladesh war and many others. Yeah.
Kuwait that we talked about yesterday.
Kuwait is there. Bangladesh is there. Yeah. Afghanistan.
So it's non-violent violence, which is 3. But then, does geopolitics count? So if Kuwait, now if you take the example of Kuwait, yesterday also I was thinking the same, right? So it is, one way of looking at it is it was a classic case of 3, right? But the other thing could actually be it's 6, because they used an opportunity to settle themselves there and then get power and so on and so forth. We will never know. We will never know the true picture. So from the outside, it looks like 3, but it could very well be 6 in the way geopolitics functions. Yeah. So if you look at it from Pakistan's side, Bangladesh war is a 6, right? Whereas we look at it as a 3. Right? Part of their country was taken away was supported by a larger neighbor and was freed up. If you look at it from their perspective, right? So
yes.
So
what was the intent then? Is the reality.
So
was the intent to help
nobody
Bangladesh
knows.
or intent? Nobody knows. Indira Gandhi knows.
Indira Gandhi knows. Yes. So
we also know. We also know, but it was a good thing to do. Whatever was done was good. I mean, right or wrong, it was for the good of both India and Bangladesh. So good intention तो थे नहीं, but अच्छा हो गया.
पाकिस्तान के लिए
हमारे लिए
इंडिया और बांग्लादेश बोला, but उनके लिए अच्छा हुआ कि नहीं?
So there is no absolute truth.
No, but Indira Gandhi was ruling the country and she did what was right for the country, for India. So हमारे लिए अच्छा हो गया.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So same situation, different perspective, and good and bad. Yes.
Yes.
For so much of population, that emergency worked fine, especially in South India. Everything was functioning normally. I don't know how many of you guys were there, but it was, I don't know about North India. A lot of atrocities happened in North India, but South India, everything was functioning perfectly well without any strikes, any taking bribes. All those things were cut off.
Yeah, I think let's go off the politics. Baba doesn't like that much. The calendar, the annual calendar from the Madam sends, which comes, there the last month page was on the politics only. So the one which comes from US, that 150, 170 rupees calendar. So it's beautiful.
Yeah. I have one question because I haven't read much of Baba's books, but my question was that Baba did not speak much. I mean, he kept silent. So how these books are written? Was it through indication or sign or how? Because books, when you hold the book, you can feel the energy to be authentic. When God speaks, when you touch the book, you feel that it is authentic. It is Baba's words. But how were they written? If anybody can reply that to me.
Baba used to use an alphabet board. If you have seen, I think I recommend to see you see a movie, God in Human Form. It's 1 hour 5 minutes movie. So there you will find a lot of pictures of Baba giving interviews using the alphabet board. This is how it was communicated. And then later, after 1956 October, Baba even dropped using an alphabet board and used to give his messages using hand gestures, which some of his close disciples like Irech were able to interpret. This is how it was given. And when the books were written, Baba looked at them and gave corrections to be made. Yeah, this is what it is. Yeah. This is
Thank you.
Yeah. I just want to add one more thing. Even though Baba was silent, he used to regularly come to his office, the Mandalay Hall, and nobody would feel that Baba was silent. There was so much of activities was going on just by his gestures. Everybody was understanding. So they're all tuned to Baba's gestures. And there was a lot of activity going on. Nobody was able to feel, oh, Baba was silent, It was like that.
And how many of you have actually connected with Babaji directly?
So
Explain the word
that's right.
connected. What do you mean by that?
Means I have seen Babaji directly in my dhyan, sitting right in front of me and giving me message for
Wow.
karma, which I have given it to him. Means
Wow.
actual message from Babaji in exact words. And I am also, in spite of being so much esoteric and all, I am still skeptic about everything. So I thought it's my imagination. But then he reinformed, and like I got a small kind of tick on my head. Actually, I could feel. So I said, "Nahi, Babaji hai, you know, ye imagination nahi hai." And that message I conveyed to Kama. That was for Kama. 2 messages I got, and I conveyed to Kama and Vidya. So I'm asking कि आप
Yeah.
लोगों ने, क्योंकि मैंने कुछ पढ़ा नहीं है बाबा जी के बारे में, so I'm asking कि आप लोगों का क्या experience है?
Yeah. Yeah.
What
I
language
think
did you speak just now? What language did you speak?
Hindi.
Baba,
Oh, Hindi? Okay. I thought you were speaking Telugu.
okay.
Can you translate that for me? I'm not very good in Hindi, please. I'm too bad.
But I thought I spoke in English.
Yeah, I think just the last line maybe he's referring to. So all he said was that do anybody on this call have experiences like that of connecting with Baba? Yeah, I think.
I think
feel free to-
I think there is some connect, though it is not something which can be put into right words or any big experience or something. But little experience we keep getting. At least I keep getting, and that's how Baba has held me for how many? 87 onwards. So many years, 34 years. So that's how it is actually. You don't have to have a very high level of experience that you see him walking around and talking to you, giving direct messages. That at least I have not had. Some people may have had. But the little experiences that we have on a day-to-day life, that's always there around. Yeah. Some help falling off just like that without any, that kind of things,
Yeah.
Baba does. Yeah.
See, what is important is loving him. That makes a big difference. We cannot approach him intellectually. Even if we try to approach him intellectually, we can go only to some extent. But by loving him, we can go a lot further. That is how we can understand him. That is how our intellect works, only by loving him. So if you love him, you will see more depth. That's what I have experienced in the past. All these since '62, we have been known Baba. So that is what I have experienced. Loving him is the most important thing. Jai Baba.
Krishna ji, I just want to add that to what has been said, that Baba has given messages called How to Love God and the 7 realities which we read today. I think if you read those or if you connect with those, you'll get many of the answers and many of the unanswered questions are answered there. Then he has also given a My Wish. So a lot of messages given by Baba, which is there on the Meher Baba website. Going through or browsing through the website and his books, especially God Speaks and Discourses, will give a more perspective.
Yeah, right. Right.
So
Thanks
yes,
a lot.
I've had some experiences too, but I'd like what he said, that you are able to sense something in the book. That's very interesting. The second thing I said is, you know how to reach me. So if you get a message for me, please reach out and tell me, Baba, please send a message. Okay. So yeah,
for everyone in this group.
What is that?
I said everyone, a message for everyone in this group.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it is actually Baba's message. One who calls out to me sincerely never fails to get my attention. Some such words response. Yeah.
Yes.
So he's there.
Perfect. So let's go to situation number 4. Suppose a mad dog has run amok and is likely to bite some school children, and the teachers in the school destroy the mad dog in order to protect the children. This destruction of the mad dog does imply violence, but there's no hatred in it. So where would this go? I think it's again 4. Others?
Yeah, 4.
Yeah. So we'll now go to the last one, non-violence of the strong. Suppose a physically strong man is insulted and spat upon by an arrogant man who is nevertheless weak. And suppose that strong man who has the power to crush the arrogant man not only desists from hurting him, but calmly explains to him the gospel of love. This action implies non-violence, but it is non-violence of the strong. I think that is
That's number 2.
exactly 2. So it could be 2 or it could be 1 as well. No, it's 2. It's 2.
Jai Baba, I have a question. What was situation number 3?
Situation number 3 was the surgery, right? No,
aggressive nation in which.
Yeah. So we said 4 again.
It's
No,
wrong.
no, we didn't say 4. We said what did we say? Yeah, we said of the brave, right? Yeah, 2.
Situation number 3 is which principle?
Situation number 3 is 3.
Okay. So basically, when you defend a weak nation, like what happened in the Bangladesh war or what the US did for Kuwait or during the Afghanistan invasion by Russia, can be considered as situation 3. But the 1965 war with Pakistan, where Pakistan invaded, we had a fight with Pakistan, that is considered situation 4, correct? Based on, when a nation's honor is at stake and is being attacked by enemies, the nation's selfless effort at defending itself is selfless violence. So there is a difference. When you're defending somebody weak, that becomes principle number 3. But when you're defending yourself, then it becomes principle number 4, or defending the honor of, when one's mother's honor is on the point of being violated by a lustful man. So, when you look at situation number 1, 2, 3, the last line that you see is kind of confusing for me. Let me read situation number 1, the last line. Striking the drowning man under such circumstances cannot be looked upon either as violence or non-violence. Then situation number 2 says this cutting of the body with a knife also cannot be looked upon either as violence or non-violence. Then situation number 3, it says fighting in defense of the weak nation cannot be looked upon as either violence or non-violence, but can be called non-violent violence. So, and then the situation number 4, this destruction of the mad dog does imply violence, but there is no hatred in it. So this can be considered as selfless violence, the case of a mad dog. Then situation number 3, case of aggressive nation defending the weaker nation is considered principle number 3, which is non-violent violence. So situation number 1 and 2, I'm still confused whether it's between 3 and 4, principle 3 and 4. Any comments?
I share your anxiety on the last lines because as I was reading them, that's what I was thinking. Here, all the classifications are about non-violence, but then he says differently in the last summary. But yeah, that's all I have to say. Others?
I think it's answered in that paragraph number 2, page number 69, which says that the first three situations mentioned above, which is case of drowning man, case of surgery, case of aggressive nation, bring out that question whether a situation implies violence or non-violence cannot be decided except by entering into many subtle and delicate considerations regarding the diverse details of the situation and the motive that prompts action. The last two situations, case of mad dog, case of non-violence of the strong, show that even where violence or non-violence is implied, certain other factors give meaning beyond the ordinary sense attached to these words, violence and non-violence. So I don't know how to interpret that, but Jai Baba.
Yeah, it's pretty complicated. I think all I would say is I think it needs quite some reflection. It's the chapter on action and inaction is 2 pages, but it's the most important chapter and very, very profound in the sense that that's what we need to put in our minds almost 24/7, right? In the same way, I realized in this reading that these 2 chapters are very, very profound, and what you take away is at multiple levels. And I request all of you to reread both these chapters, and we can do the assignment. And in this special case, let's also finish the quiz on this together on Saturday. I will name a volunteer who will work with me, and we'll both of us will finish the quiz for Saturday, right? That's what I was thinking. So that as it is fresh in our minds, we'll finish that and then take up the third quiz on removal of samskaras.
Jai Baba, one more thing I want to comment is after what I just read, the second paragraph on page 69, then the subsequent paragraphs, you see that there are comments on each of the different situations. A detailed analysis of situation number 1, then number 2, and then the next page on number 3. So I think we should try to read this and see whether we can come up with some insights. Jai Baba.
Indeed, I think all of us must, and let's discuss them. And if you find something pertinent, some good references or some good ideas, please put them out on the Telegram channel as well, so that we can keep this in our minds through the rest of the week. We have just about 10 minutes, so I don't want to take up a new chapter at this time. Yeah. So with that, I'll stop recording. We can just chew the fat for a bit and then drop off at 10.